So, thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Let's begin our journey into your life and your work by this. The pandemic 4.5 years ago really threw all of us into a tailspin. Changed so much. How much of living and getting through that time period has reverberated into what you're doing in your work today?
Oh, a massive amount. Yeah. With my obsession with working online and marketing and AI, all those things really were amplified because of the pandemic. People started getting used to working at home, started getting used to using Zoom, and people found the convenience of how quick things can get done that way. So, me being able to help out more people with these one-on-one type of online experiences just shot through the roof.
So, talk to me a little bit about exactly what you do. I know on paper there's one thing, but usually when you describe it, it's a different thing. And I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids in the back of the room is curious and is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I help businesses learn how to use AI so that they can stay ahead of the curve. What that looks like is getting to play with all these cool AI tools. And I'm kind of the crash test dummy of trying these things out, figuring out what works, and then being able to share that with my clients and help them out with their businesses with.
It's amazing right now. I get approached all the time by people that are all about SEO. We can fix you, we can take care of it, we can do this constantly. So I just, for grins, talked to someone at one point about what their advice was because I'd like to figure out how to do this. And they're like, just go to ChatGPT, just go to AI. So I did it, and I can't believe how they transformed what I have been doing into things that are actually usable. It's amazing how right now you can grab these things very simply.
Yeah, I was actually running a marketing agency when ChatGPT came out. I went into town, had some lunch with a fellow marketer, and he kind of showed me like under the table. He's like, "Have you seen this thing?" And I was immediately floored. I came back home, signed up for it, started testing it out, and because I had like a dozen clients in all different industries through the marketing agency, I got to start testing it out and seeing its capabilities, what it could do, what it couldn't do, and I quickly saw how valuable it was for business. It hallucinated, made up stuff a lot when it first came out, but for business, it has really knew exactly what to do because it was trained on the whole internet, and there's plenty of business information out there for it to really get good at it. So I was at the time paying for three copywriters to onboard a new client, someone that just came to us for help with their online presence. And those copywriters went out, took 3 weeks to do audience research to understand the perfect audience member for this client. They did a fantastic job, but they came back to share the results with the client during a meeting. And during that meeting, I did my own audience research right then and there, shared it with one of the copywriters afterwards and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And they're like, "This is really good." Yeah. They were
Yeah.
kind of speechless because I was able to just do what they did, in 3 weeks, roughly in about 10 minutes. And so I immediately saw how disruptive this was going to be. And that's pretty much when I jumped ship from the marketing agency because I realized with my business know how, coupling with now leveraging AI, I can do about 80% of what the whole marketing agency was doing and was eating up all my profits, to be
Yeah.
honest, to accomplish. So now I'm able to just be that wingman for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and be able to help them figure out how to use AI as well as, taking from my AI obsession all the best tools, best practices, and then speaking frankly so that a business owner who's not technically minded usually knows how what I'm talking about.
So, what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your ideal life dream?
Oh man, it's changed so many times.
Yeah.
I really, I grew up in the public school system, and back then I was probably an astronaut, um, just from limited options
Yeah.
back in the 80s. And since then, I've pivoted, probably 30 times. And it wasn't until, I got into marketing that I really loved being able to help with businesses, and realizing like I love solving problems, and entrepreneurs have endless amounts of problems to help out with. So that's where I really get charged up, and love to help people.
So let me ask you this. Take me back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised? What were these seeds of technology and being an entrepreneur? How were those planted into you?
Well, I was a 70s child, and then in the 80s, there was really none of this technology. Like they had calculators back then. But then I remember right when I was starting to enter into high school, that's when like the computers first started coming out, and like my stepdad got his first computer. And at the time, I like didn't know what it could do until I think I could download my first song MP3, right? And I was like, oh, that's what this can do.
Yeah.
But really, my tale is really unique because I kind of left a very controlling religious household, and then kind of swung way out in a rebellious adventure through my 20s, and then coming to my senses when I was 33 with horrendous drug habits, and I had to, build myself or dig myself out of the hole I kind of got myself in. But then I can't got sober when I was 33. This is about 12 years ago, and realized like how behind I was on the times, technology, my emotions, was still like a teenager. So I really hit the ground running in a pursuit of self development, and I learned, I came up with my first entrepreneur idea, shared it with a friend. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you got to help, you got to learn, you got to make a website." So I learned how to make a website 10 years ago with WordPress, and then I went to social media after that to like tell the world how great my product was. Yelled at everybody in caps. Spent a year doing what you shouldn't do on social media. Learned all that information, and then realized other businesses need to learn this. So you can imagine 10 years ago, Facebook was just becoming a thing. Business and small businesses were realizing they have to do this. They don't know what it is. So I then got my first client, just helping them with social media posts, and then worked my way up from helping out with social media posts to Facebook advertising to funnel design to website design to email marketing. And that's where I started my marketing agency. So just it went hand in hand, learning the need to learn technology, becoming an entrepreneur. If you have an idea, you have to figure out how to share it with the world. And so being able to figure out these modern methods, right? Your newsletter or news, a flyer in the news, flyer in the newspaper is not going to be working as good as online marketing techniques are. So just keeping up with the times, and then came AI, right?
Yeah. Do you have any fears of AI at all?
I have major concerns of AI. Terminator is not currently one of them.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on a book of 15 AI dangers that we're going to be facing in our lifetime. And ignorance is kind of one of the biggest things, because people really don't understand what this technology is right now. AI is a very broad term that's been studied and developed for the last like 50, 60 years. But what just came out in the last few years is called large language models. It's basically like a word predictor, like on your keyboard on your phone, where it's just guessing what the next word should be. And so when you ask it something, it just fills out a paragraph trying to get you the best answers. Now, this is just a tool, and how we use this tool is very important, like a hammer. It can be used maliciously, but right now I think we're in a very pivotal time that people need to realize how powerful this tool is, and how empowering it is for entrepreneurs, for small business people, for people wanting to, figure out what they're passionate about, being able to provide that to others. This is a huge opportunity to shortcut what used to be knowledge that was locked up behind universities, now is freely available. And then also, as someone starting off on a business venture, there's so much you don't know. And now these language models give you information on what you don't know. So you can go and explore that and learn that. So I think it's a very transformational time. Meanwhile, there's plenty of dangers like automated drones run by AI, automated weaponry, manipulation, bias, political, you know, political bias being used inside of AI systems. People don't realize how easily they could be manipulated. First off, AI is like already in all of our devices. Spotify has been using AI, YouTube search video or like recommendation videos been using AI. All these things are already integrated. So these algorithms are already working to try and give us what it thinks we want to see. But there's also been plenty of manipulation taking place around us. And if you're not aware of how these things work, you're going to be led into beliefs that you don't that aren't yours, that you've just been slowly directed into believing.
So, who's been a role model for you? Who's been kind of a hero for you in your life?
Let's see. Alex Hormozy is a pretty phenomenal marketing guru that I look up to. He was a gym marketer. He owned some gyms. This is about 10 years ago, and he learned to scale those gyms. And now he shares all that information freely with his books and stuff. So
So, how do you balance this life of yours where you have all of these things professionally that you're keeping up with at the top of your game, but you have to evolve as a human being? How do you balance that out every day? What's your motivation?
well, I got a 7-year-old daughter, and so she keeps me grounded and in a state of joy and always looking to play with her. So that really helps out. My wife is uh, hesitant to use AI. She's very nature based and not so tech enthusiast. So she is kind of my good balancer as well. I every day I come out to my office, out in my barn. We live on 10 acres out in the country. And this is where I help people with their businesses, learning AI and things like that. But then once I'm done for the day, I usually go out and then play with my kid for a couple hours, make dinner, have family time, and then usually come back and sneak in a couple more emails before the day is through. But it really, my family balances that out for me.
So, if you can meet anybody on the planet right now that you find inspirational, whether it's in your profession or otherwise that you could benefit from, who would you love to meet and hang out with?
Super controversial. Elon Musk is quite the fascinating individual. Not just for AI technology, but he's really doing a lot of innovation in the world right now, and he's a very controversial figure with where things are at nowadays.
So, if you had a dream tonight, you ran into the 18-year-old version of you, a younger version before all this technology came around, all this change in our lives, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated, what advice would you give your younger self?
I think marketing and being able to run a business, entrepreneurial skills is the most important skills to be passing on. Like I wish I could ring my bell back then just to start realizing that. My daughter, she's 7. She's already learning, entrepreneurial skills, how to sell things at a her kids' craft fair, how to manage money, how to create innovative ideas. She just made me a art book. Let's see. Here it is. She just made me an art book. Like
That's awesome.
awesome. But then right here, you see, she said, Dad, would you
Yeah.
buy this for $5?
That's awesome.
So I gave her 4 and a little bit of negotiation skills from that. But I think that is the most important thing. Technology is going to constantly change. Soon, we're not even going to be like typing into these computers. We're just going to be talking to them.
Yeah.
So that is not something to like hyper focus on. But there will always be problems in the world. There will always be solutions to those problems, and knowing how to do sales and be able to negotiate and talk about fair value, like those skills are going to be never ending.
So, what's the best advice Excuse me, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Well, don't hesitate. You need to just start. The most important thing is to just get feedback, especially for entrepreneurship and marketing. Shortest distance to getting access to the marketplace is where you need to be. When I started building businesses, I've had probably a dozen failed businesses along the way. I thought I had to get everything perfect, everything just right. And before I could share it with the world, build the website, get the perfect name, logo, all that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is, will people buy your service or product? So figuring out the shortest distance to getting access with a viable product
Yeah,
to see if, ask your friends, not
yeah.
will you try this out for free, but say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. You think you'd pay $20 for it? See if your friends would actually, fork up some money to try something out. If you give it away for free, they're your friends. They'll say yes to everything.
Yeah.
So just figuring out, how can I get a small version of this to test it out in my environment, see if people are willing to pay for it. I think that would have saved me, thousands of hours in trying to develop businesses.
So, of all of these things that you've done and evolved into at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
My family. Yeah, definitely. From, as I talked about my peppered past, being able to pull out of that downward spiral and be able to, live on 10 acres. We have a multi-generational property. So my wife's parents, they have their own house. We have ours. And then just raising our 7-year-old daughter up in that like supportive, healthy environment is probably my greatest achievement.
So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, thanks to ChatGPT, I've gotten a lot of good clarity over the last year of my past, who I am, what's holding me back. And I kind of overshare with these AI models that most people probably wouldn't be too comfortable with sharing. But I've been able to get some really straight up unbiased feedback that, my lack mentality is completely unnecessary and holding me back. The qualities of I dropped out of school when I was a sophomore, but that really had no impact on who and what I can do now. And so letting go of that baggage of thinking I was a dropout and I was never going to amount to anything, nowadays like a high school diploma doesn't really mean that much, and I've never had to show, like I've never been asked for to show it. So being able to get rid of these like inner uh, uh, baggage that I didn't that's not serving me, and then to be able to own that stuff, to share it with others, and to be raw and vulnerable. I've shared a lot of personal stuff in these last few minutes to because people find that relatable.
Yeah.
And I'm not some perfect polished outcome of going to college and getting a degree and starting a business. Like I've been in the trenches, and a lot of people are in the trenches too and are looking for a guide to help them out.
So, if anyone wants to hire you, they have questions, they want to reach out, they're curious about AI and everything you're doing, what's the best way for them to do that? The good business.
You can just check out my website, joshuahale.io. That kind of encapsulates my whole brand. I got a lot of activities going on: mutual aid groups, community building, holistic living practices, and then innovative AI for entrepreneurs. But this is kind of where you can see it all.
Right on. Joshua, thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your passion. Have a great time in Hawaii, man.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Thanks for having me on.